And so, Michael, thanks very much for joining us today. I very much appreciate you being with us here today and sharing your experiences. Could you do me a favor and tell me a little bit about your organization's mission and whose lives are mostly impacted from what you do, and how's the community benefit?
Sure. So I work for the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office, and I've been here for about 23 years. We are the public prosecutor who charges individuals with crimes as defined by the California Penal Code. In terms of who we affect, obviously we affect every person who's charged with a crime. And so a system that we would have would envision working to make that process more streamlined. But we also not only impact them, but every individual who is a victim of all those crimes that are committed. As you can imagine, with every government entity, we have limited resources. And even though we have limited resources and crime is increasing on a nationwide level, what we have to do is be able to review and prosecute cases as effectively and as efficiently as we can with the resources we are given.
So the impact that you have is quite large for your community, and I would say mission critical in many ways. Can you give me an idea or share a little bit with what the problem is or was that you were trying to solve?
Absolutely. So we had a case management system. And if you can imagine, our case management system at the time that we went to what we refer to now as Star TNG, a Dynamics appliance, was 26 years old. And it was 26 years old, built on 26-year-old technology. And the thing that I would have to explain to a lot of our colleagues is, imagine, if you will, the computer that you had 26 years ago, or the phone, if you had a cell phone 26 years ago. There have been significant changes, but we never were able to meet the changes that occurred, not just technologically, but also in terms of software development. And so our system was pretty stagnant, and it really didn't help us make decisions or evaluate things as much as it did. It just tracked what we did day to day, and that was it. It was a very paper-driven process. The system was very limited. So when the organization grew in those 26 years, we basically resorted to Microsoft Excel or other hand-driven solutions to deal with issues in our office that should have been dealt with in a case management system that encompassed the entire organization.
So, and thanks very much, Michael. I know we spent a lot of time together as two organizations, as partners, coming up with the right solution for the challenge you just outlined. Can you share a little bit with me about what that was like, the process, and what we ultimately came up with? That'd be great.
Yeah, so it's the ultimate solution was a case management system that was built on a Dynamics platform. Now, the greatness of working kind of with Microsoft with this is that at the time when we first started, we had a concept of what we were trying to build. And it was a system that would encompass all aspects of our organization. The lawyers and their unique functions, our victim advocates and their unique functions, the Bureau of Investigation and their unique functions, and then all of our support teams and their unique functions. Because our case management system before that never contemplated, for example, some of those, the Bureau of Victim Services or our Bureau of Investigation. It really only handled very small portions of what we did. So we wanted to find a system that would contemplate the interplay of all of those sections within our office. And this solution really worked to do that, such that each one of us, depending on our role, we have a different view of the system based on the aspect that we do, the activity that we do. And so, for example, our lawyers who do initial filing and review of cases, they are able to look at people, they're able to match people to see, are they individuals that we have seen previously in our organization where they've either been a victim or a defendant or a suspect before. It allows our clerks to be able to promulgate data to the courts, electronic filing of cases through complaints, informations, or other documents, electronic subpoenas, including SMS notifications, text notifications to our law enforcement partners when they're needed in court if the case gets continued or if the case gets canceled. It also allows us to communicate directly with our Bureau of Investigation. In the past, we'd have to fill out forms, triplicate forms at one point, as to what we would need them to do. Now, through Star TNG, it's pretty much clicks of the button as it relates to a case. And the system actually tracks when we made that request, who made that request, when it was fulfilled, if it couldn't be fulfilled, and why. And then for the lawyer who's in the courtroom, it's a system that they can reach and touch anytime they're in the courtroom with any device. They can see what the current status of the case is. If they are looking at a particular defendant that they're prosecuting, they can look at back cases, previous cases, the prior police reports on those cases to see, am I making the right offer based on the entirety of their record? Or if they don't have a record, they can immediately determine that, especially if they have similar names, to make sure the person that I'm looking at is really this record versus the potential mistake of connecting them to other records that they were potentially connected to in the past. So what the system does is it gives great flexibility to the individual based on their function to be able to more effectively do their job.
That's amazing. And it'd be interesting. What do the attorneys say? What do the folks say they're using the system? Any learnings that you've had so far to this point?
Sure. Yes. And when I think of learnings, first and foremost, our lawyers who are in the courtroom recognize it does a lot more than it ever did. That is to say, they can track the things that are happening. If they communicate, for example, with a victim or a witness or a member of the office, and they do those communications through STAR TNG, it fully leverages the power of O365. And what happens then is they can promulgate an email, they can make a phone call through Dynamics, using Outlook, using Teams, so that all the connectivity of Office 365 with Dynamics is embedded and it grows. So as changes are done to Dynamics, to Office 365, we realize those changes as a force multiplier in our organization. They are able to track things they've never tracked. For example, if a defense attorney does a particular thing in a particular case, one of our lawyers logs it in their particular case, they can do a search and see, oh, this is how this defense attorney or how this judge has handled things in the past. There are also challenges. So we are working to digitize pretty much everything in our organization, including our past. So past police reports, we want to, over time now, because of Dynamics 365, we can house that within our STAR TNG appliance. A lot of our colleagues who handle the very beginning of cases, there is an added workload for them. But that added workload really minimizes the work down the chain as the case goes through the process. What I mean by that is they review their case electronically. They immediately mark, once they make the determination to file, that certain matters or certain materials need to be handed over to the defense. Rather, what would happen in the past, we would copy them, make multiple copies of them, put them in a bucket. A defense attorney's representative would have to grab it at some point. Sometimes that can take a week. Some that can take time that can take longer. If there were changes in lawyers, we'd have to get it back or it'd be destroyed, and we'd have to make copies again. Well, the beauty of Dynamics 365 is portals for us. And with portals now, within 15 minutes of our lawyers at the outset marking discovery for delivery to defense attorney, it's made available to them 15 minutes after the case is filed. Whereas it would be in the past, maybe several days, a week, it would take for them to get the discovery. Now they have it readily available within 15 minutes so that they'll be able to effectively represent their client as quickly as we make the decision that we will be filing criminal charges against them.
Yeah. That's amazing, that turnaround time. That's phenomenal, Michael. Are there other metrics that you've seen so far, maybe some surprises that you've seen in terms of efficiencies that you didn't expect or are meeting or exceeding your expectations? Because I want you to share with me in terms of evidence sharing and case disclosure to the defense. That's pretty amazing, going from days and weeks down to less than an hour. That's amazing.
It is. I will tell you what we love about Dynamics 365 is not so much what it does in terms of the replacement of our prior case management system, but about all the other possibilities after that. Is the ability to look at that data and use Power BI to evaluate how we're doing things. Are we doing things as effectively as we used to? And it gives us the ability as managers to look at what we are doing. And many times people look at that in a one-dimensional context. For example, the number of cases we file. Many people would look at that as a raw number. Well, the beauty with Dynamics and with Power BI is not only do we see that raw number, but we can drill down under that number based on our divisions. We have 3. We are the largest county in the United States with over 20,000 square miles. We have 3 large offices spread out geographically, and we're able to look at the activity, for example, of each particular lawyer in the filing function at each of those locations to see how many cases are they reviewing. What are the number? What is the percentage of the cases in which they reject or decide not to file? How often they will look at things. And the reality is we're not looking at it in one-dimensional aspect. For example, you could see a raw number, but we could actually then drill down with Power BI to see the acuity of the particular cases we're looking at. For example, someone may do fewer cases, but the complexity of those cases we can see by the types of charges. And now there's an explanation of that. So you don't look at just the number, you can look at the story beneath that to see, are they effective? And so you might see smaller numbers with a particular person, but the depth of what they're doing is significantly greater than others, such that it explains why they're not having the same volumes as one of their colleagues right down the hall. And that's amazing for staffing models, for staffing, and frankly, for us to see that we do need more staff. But now we actually have the empirical data to show we need more staff to do a particular function.
That's amazing, Michael. And it's great. Every time I hear stories shared around optimization and kind of modifying workflows and making people's lives a little bit easier, better access to information, for me personally, it brings a smile to my face and gets me really excited about some of the work that we've been doing together in the partnership. Let me ask you a question. Why Microsoft? I mean, there's a lot of folks out there these days that can help provide capability. Why did you choose us?
Well, Paul, it's a great question. And it wasn't something that we came to immediately. When we were looking to make changes to our case management system as early as 2011, 2012, we were trying to figure out what type of system. Do we go with an out-of-a-box solution that people build for prosecutors? That was a potential option. But the reality is those products that were out there at the time weren't even as sophisticated as the system we currently had, which was, in its had been over 20 years old at that point. We looked at other CRM platforms that are web-based. In fact, we actually bought one to test one in a very finite area of our organization to see, hey, is this web-based CRM type appliance, it's CRM also, would it be helpful for us on a larger scale? The reality is it wasn't going to work. The ability to have more customization wasn't something that system was going to be able to provide. We also looked potentially at Microsoft partners to assist us. And we indeed even tested one to see in another small area, would it be the way to go to build our large case management system? And the answer was the amount of sophistication we wanted, they weren't going to be able to provide that as well as Microsoft Consulting could. A big reason why is that we needed to deal with areas of scale as it applied to the district attorney's office. And Microsoft was used to that. We were small compared to Microsoft's clients, where they may serve large government organizations, state prosecutors' offices, attorney general's offices. We were relatively small. While we are the 5th largest in our state, I would characterize us as small as it applied to Microsoft. But the beauty of going with Microsoft is they never treated me like the small person. They treated me like I was a partner with them in building a solution. They listened. They spent the time to understand what we did, how we did it, and they helped us challenge ourselves to figure out, is there a better way to do things in light of the new technology that exists? And so for us, when we made the initial investment with Microsoft in a small portion of it, over time, we started to make larger and larger investments as we grew the plan to build the case management system to where it's at today. And our hope is that it might build even more in the future.
Yeah, that's great, Michael. Thank you. I can tell you what, I know for a fact there are a lot of other DAs in the US that would very much like the system that you have today. And I just want to say thank you for trusting us to partner with you to make this become a reality. And, obviously very much have enjoyed it. And it has truly been a partnership. And, we're very much looking to where this goes next. And I want to thank you again for working with us and really excited about all the metrics and the opportunities and the enhanced workflows and the like that have come from the system. It's absolutely outstanding and amazing. So thank you.
Absolutely. And Paul, the beauty of this is that the future is even brighter. What I mean by that is the one thing with Dynamics and with Microsoft is we know that change is a part of our structure, part of our world. And the beauty is, I think that Dynamics and Microsoft is prepared to help us venture into wherever that's going to happen. This year, we see a lot of new legislative changes which will affect us. I don't worry about them like I used to in the past because we're on CRM and we're in Dynamics in a cloud. And I know that the system that we have is malleable enough to change as times change, as environments change. And so we're really fortunate to have Microsoft as a partner as we look forward to the next decade or two, or even 3.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.